We live.
What up? What up?
Got my man Big Phil with us today.
How's it going?
Welcome to episode
Eight
9. I think
or
it
nine?
is. I think it's 9. Don't cut us short. Episode 9. Pretty sure. Big Phil,
Yes, sir.
how you doing?
I'm good, man. How you doing, brother? Brothers.
I'm good, man. I'm sitting here envious of your magic voice. Like I know in like years you're gonna be on the radio show. You're gonna be killing them. Like you got the perfect voice, man.
Man, when that happens, I'm gonna go back to this click and be like, yo, my man Malk called it this
Yeah,
time, this date 2020. Called
yeah.
it.
And send me a check with that shout out too.
With that bread.
Get that
Yeah.
percentage. I got you. I got you.
All right, so jumping smack into it. Who is Phil Bonaparte II and what's his connection to Game 7? So, Phil, what I do is I'll give a brief intro about how I know you or how we know you, and then I'll let you give your introduction. We're going to jump to the questions.
All
All
right.
right. So, Phil, I never told you this, but I always remember Phil because our first day at Petty, we went to high school together. You was a year behind me, right?
Yeah.
But you came as a lifer, eighth grader.
Yep.
Right? Okay, so my first football practice as a ninth grader, his first as an eighth grader.
Yes,
And
sir.
Phil was struggling. I don't know if we were just running laps or we was doing some kind of conditioning, and you were struggling, and they was giving you the blues. And I was sitting there watching. I thought you was gonna quit. You feel me? I just knew you
Yeah.
was gonna quit because you was struggling like really, really bad, but you never stopped. You feel me? And
Yeah.
that was something that was like a well, all right, yo, we got the big dogs. You feel me? My man ain't quit. I always remember that. And then now that I'm older and had more exposure to life and been through things, you were one of the people that I wish I would have took more effort to get to know in my previous life. Not my previous life, but in my younger years. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people at high school, but because high school, you're trying to find yourself, especially at a school like that. You got your own little pockets of friends and you're watching everything. But I wish I would
Hmm.
have involve myself with more people in different ways. You feel
Yeah.
me? And when we started the podcast, knowing how you speak, knowing your history, and knowing your heart, I knew that you would be somebody that I wanted to reach out to from the beginning. So welcome, and we appreciate you coming on, bro.
Thanks, man. Pleasure is all mine. The pleasure is all mine.
Yeah. So jumping into it, your family, you're a first generation family from Grenada, and you grew up in Jersey City until 7, and then moved into the suburbs until high school. So, what can you remember about your early years? How much can you remember?
I actually remember a good amount. My dad he came up to Jersey City for his residency around '88, and the following year, that's when he met my mom. They started to kick it. Then I came out, but but my dad didn't really his he didn't become a full-fledged physician till the beginning of '91. So um like growing up in Jersey City, like when I was like, especially like when I was like between 4 and 7, like I remember we were broke because my dad just started his own thing, like started doing this practice. He was going all the time with working not only with his practice in the um hospital, but also he had to be on call for the emergency room because he was brand new. And then my mom met him at Jersey City Medical Center, so they worked together. And we lived in my grandparents' house because we didn't have enough finances for us to have our own place. So I was raised by my grandmother and my grandfather for at least the first 4 or 5 years, and like the stereotypical urban, uh, kind of, I don't want to say minimum wage because that wasn't the case. It was just, he had debt and we were still just trying to get up. But we were eating ramen and like potato bread and all that, drinking grape drink instead of grape juice. That was the life that I lived, all in Jersey City, until finally my dad was capable of, he finally was getting that income, and he was doing a ton of different things in order to get our family out of the city. Because with him being born and raised in Grenada, which is a really small island in the Caribbean, he understood, and going from there to being a doctor, he understood the importance of education and opportunity, and that just wasn't going to happen really in Jersey City in the early '90s. For those of us that were in that space, especially around that time, that was when the HIV pandemic really hit hard in the urban area. So my dad, he visited some fans in Millstone, New Jersey, which is central Jersey. I mean, like straight up boonies. I ain't seen that much green in my whole entire life, and we moved there, and that was probably the toughest thing I've had to do up until this point in my life.
Really.
And the reason why is because it wasn't just a transition; it was also the culture shock that I had to endure, because I went from being being in a very diverse neighborhood to being like me and my little sister. We were like one of maybe 20 black kids in the entire school. Um, so it was tough. I got into fights. I acted out in class, and I was one of those kids that was capable of doing my work. So, like, the teachers didn't know what to do with me, because they would send me to detention, but I was still getting A's, and like I was getting suspended, but I was still doing after school programs. So they didn't really know what was going on and what was happening. Um, but I'll never forget. I was talking with my grandfather at a point in time when that was happening, and he was just he was talking to me because I had gotten into trouble in school, and he was like, "Look, man, at the end of the day, like you could either do this and be miserable, or do this and be happy. It's like, just like enjoy it as best you can. I know it's tough, I know it's difficult, but um, you can make this a great thing or a terrible thing. It's up to you." And that was probably like when I was like around 8 or 9. And from that point on, I it changed my perception of a lot of things. And I think it was that mentality that helped me um, get into petty. Once I in high school, when I was 12, my last class in middle school, in Millstone Middle School, I'll never forget it, man. I was walking towards that bus, and I was in tears, because I was like, yo, I know, like, it took me so long to get to this place where I knew cats in the school, and people were appreciative of me, and I was doing well. And now I was going on to this new venture, and I didn't know what to expect. And I was just, thinking I was going to miss everyone, which I did. But again, I think the thought process of just wanting to make things as best as they can helped me through that transition in middle school, and then of course helped me get to petty in 2003.
Wow. That was a great response. So
Yeah.
your father is a doctor and a preacher?
Yeah, yeah. My dad's a medical doctor and a pastor. He started medical school and pastoring the same year at the age of 19, like a
Wow.
crazy man.
Wow. And did he ever tell you what was his motivation behind that?
Yeah, he so my dad's dad passed away when he was a teenager, and it was from something basic like an asthma attack. But living in Grenada, in the at that point it would have been like the '70s. it wasn't that easy to get that kind of medical care. So my dad just always wanted to be a doctor. But through as he was going through school at 17, he really got into ministry. Like he was going to church and was really dedicating his life to Christ. And he wanted to be able to do both. He did not know how he was going to be able to do both, but he wanted to. And it says in the scripture all over the place to put God first. And asking you shall receive, seeking you will find, knocking it will open. And my dad was like, God, I want to be a pastor, but I also want to be a medical doctor. And got the opportunity, crazy opportunity. He was walking down the street in Grenada, and he was a guy on a motorcycle asked him if he needed a ride. So my dad hopped on the bike with him, and the guy just started asking him questions, the same one we're doing right now. And my dad told him his dream about becoming a medical doctor. And that guy happened to be one of the professors at the university, the medical school university in Grenada, known as St. George's. And he gave my dad a shot. He told my dad to go visit his class for a week, and at the end of the week, he's going to give him a test, and he'd see what would happen thereafter. And my dad sat in the class for a week, no books, no pen, no pad, aced the test, and next thing you know, he was getting scholarship to go to medical school the following year.
Damn.
That's that's such a powerful story, yo. Like, especially for us in what we do. Like with him being, you said he was 19
Yeah,
and going to school to be a preacher and a doctor at the same time. And
yeah, man. It's just he was prepared, and I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of us need to learn is that that opportunity is going to come, but are you going to be
mhm,
prepared for it when it
mhm.
comes?
And why do you say that he was prepared?
Because like when talking with him about school and stuff, he was always big on education and
Mhm,
all, especially all, a lot of times we like to look at it as like, well, he's a pastor, so he probably didn't do that much when it came to school. But my dad always, his dad and his mom always um, told him the importance of education and told him the importance of just being prepared, no matter what the circumstances are. So, and the reason why I know that he was like that is because I'm like that as well. Like he embedded that into me too, like to always be prepared for the opportunity when it comes.
Phil, watch this. This you just threw me the oop, bro. I just put this there. The last word you just said was to be prepared for the opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So I was saying like he had to believe something to make him get through all that. You
Mhm.
feel me? Like that? That's not normal. Like you can
Right.
have the most education in the world, which so many people do, but a lot of people fail to take that and go act on it. Or if
Yeah.
they're acting, and I'm sure he was in school for forever in terms of like school time. That's a very very long term goal with the ultimate definition of delaying your gratification, right?
Mhm.
But because he believed it, that changed his anticipation. All right,
Hmm.
I'm looking out for this. I'm looking out for this. A lot of people would have got on that motorcycle with the dude, and they wouldn't have took advantage of that opportunity. They just would have took the ride. You feel me? But
Yeah.
then he had the intentions. Like whenever I get this opportunity, I'm gonna take care of it, and he focused on it. You feel me? So as you're looking for things, you'll see opportunities that other people don't see. You feel me? It's just like, for example, say we were to watch a football game right now. We would probably all watch different positions. We're focusing on different stuff. So
Hmm.
after the play, you're gonna be like, damn, KG Mouth, did y'all see that pancake? KG gonna be like, nah, I was watching the running back. And I'm like, dang, I missed it too, because I was watching the slot. We all watching the same game, but we caught different things because of what we focused on. You feel me?
Yeah.
So that was dope from your father. And obviously, I ain't never talked to him about it, but I'm sure he got through it because of first what he believed in. Feel me? So I think that's pretty big, and that is something that I see in you, and I can already KG notice it too. just from talking to tons of people, the way that you talk is very different. Like you are a superb communicator, effortlessly. You feel me? And I'm sure that came from. I remember him too. Like your pops, like when in freshman year when he used to come in and ask us to go to church. Yo,
Yeah.
he was so cool and so smooth and like and he ain't do nothing wrong, but like, he made me feel bad. Like damn, like I should be doing something. And he got also he has that real strong voice too. But
Yeah.
you could tell that y'all both have spent a lot of time in the way that y'all communicate. And once again, was one of the reasons why I thought of you. And then when you told me all the stuff that you did, like you're also a motivational speaker. You said,
Yeah, yeah. I back in from 2014 to 2017, basically that's what I was doing. That was my bread and butter.
yeah. So how did you get into that?
Um, so after the end of 2013, I I left school. I didn't graduate. I'm not one of them cats that walked off with that piece of paper saying that I did it. Um, but I knew that it was my time to go. Um, so I had no idea what I was going to do, what was going to happen. But the next chapter of my journey was in front of me. So I left school and I was going back and forth between Tennessee, where I was living at the time, and New Jersey, where my family lives.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and my dad actually, he he noticed that I was getting really into reading, self help books and motivational books, and listening to podcasts and things of that nature. And he had just asked the question. He was like, "Hey, man, MegaFest is in August. Do you want to go?" I was like, "Yeah, sure. Why not? Let's go." In Texas, met this guy named Jonathan Sprinkles. And
Okay.
yes, that is his government name, Jonathan Sprinkles. So met he did a piece, a seminar there. Met him and talking with him, and I really got like we kind of clicked with one another. He's a brother that probably by now is like in his early 40s. So back then he might have been in his mid to late 30s.
Okay.
So he wasn't that much further than me, I guess, you know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
I was like 25 at the time, and he had a conference. So in the January of the fall of that upcoming year, and my dad asked the question. He was like, "Hey, you want to go to this conference?" I was like, "Sure, why not? Let's do it." So I get there, and I am by far the youngest cat there, um, and surrounded by ridiculously successful people. Like I got this one guy over here. He works at the main offices for Apple. This other dude owns over 30 businesses. This other guy is in the 1% of entrepreneurs in the United States. I mean, just left and right, just phenomenal beings. And they were all here for because Jonathan Sprinkles, his thing's connection is key. So he helps people with public speaking and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And while they're just hanging out with these guys and gals, we were at our dinner. And one of the cats, he came up to me, man. I'll never forget, man. His name is Jeff Ducharme. He came up to me. He goes, "Phil," it's like, "Yeah." He's like, you have a lot to offer." I was like, "Oh, thanks, man." Like compliment, like, "Oh, thanks, buddy, appreciate it."
Uh-huh.
He's like, "No, seriously." It's like your story and your desire to help people can help people. You should be you should be doing what we're doing. You should be speaking. You should be writing books. This, that, and the third. And I'm sitting there like, man, you crazy, bro. Like, ain't no way on God's green earth I'm fitting to do any of that. Like, I'm just some dude from Jersey. Ain't no big deal. And but he's like, "No, man, trust me." He's like, we need you to really do what you're supposed to do. Um, and that night before I went to bed, it was like a click in my brain. Um, It was like God's like, you remember when I told you to leave school? This is why. This is
Mm-hmm.
why you're supposed to not finish school. This is why. So that next day, I joined the program. He became my mentor and coach, and I started speaking. Went around different schools, middle schools, high schools. Did things like this. Started writing a book. Did wrote one called Dig Deep, and went on that. Started just doing that thing for about 3 years. Did training as well, and that was my job for over 3 years.
So, why did you stop?
I stopped because it was meant to be a way to prepare me for my next place in life, which was to go back in Jersey and help my father with his church. And the reason why is because during all that time, you meet a bunch of ridiculously amazing people that excel so well in what they do, that I finally got to a place where the world was kind of like, all right, so now like we've been preparing you for this next thing. Like this was just kind of like a prepping space, not the main thing, at least not yet. So my dad, he called me, and for one, he went from one church to three churches in 3 months.
Mm.
Crazy. And then he lost his music pastor and youth pastor.
Okay.
And with all that happening, he had called me and was like, "Hey man, like, what are you doing? What you up to?" And I had told him like I was already thinking about what's the next thing for me to do in my life, especially because like speaking is something that you can do um no matter what the circumstances are. But I still wanted to get a little bit more experience from actually working for someone and helping other people achieve their dreams. So that's when I got the call. My dad asked me to be. It went from first it was the youth pastor at his church, and I did that for about a year. But in that year, I was feeding him a bunch of different things. I was giving him business plans and organizational charts and writing up volunteer, rules and regulations and all this other stuff. And whenever we would have meetings, I wouldn't say a word because I would just like, get it all together, put it in a PowerPoint, have the handout and just give it to my dad and be like, hey, this is your thing, like you're the boss, you do this. Um, and like I learned all that stuff from public speaking. And by the end of the year, he's like, bro, you're doing all this. So why not just be the assistant pastor and help continue building the foundation for the ministry? And it's like, okay. Again, like there was a question, there was an opportunity. I was already prepared for it, and I just ran with it.
Yeah. So, Phil, I don't know if you know this, yo, but you got a gift, bro. You got you got a big gift, and I know you got what you got going on, but you gotta keep speaking. Like
Yeah, you do,
trust me,
man.
ask AG. I send them
I'm just
speeches
sitting here
all
listening.
day, all day, every day. I send the speeches. I study it. I don't know if I told you, but I went to learn how to speak through Dr. Eric Thomas. I got
Yes, sir.
certified. You feel me? So I learned about like the art of speaking and all of these different kinds of things, right? And one thing that I never noticed, and nobody around me ever says, I guess because they're used to me. First thing everybody always highlights is my voice. I don't think it's that unique, but everybody always talks about my voice, right? And it catches them. And one thing I noticed that speaking for myself, the most powerful speakers that I listen to, they're all preachers and like people that you wouldn't necessarily think are preachers. Like E.T. is a preacher,
Hmm.
Jerry Anderson is a preacher, Inky Johnson is a preacher, Les Brown is a preacher. You feel me? And they got like they do their church thing, but they also just talk to people too without like the religion and everything else involved, but like kind of communicating their principles,
Yeah.
right? And I just want to reiterate to you, just like the dude said, you do have a powerful gift, bro. And we ain't even get to your story yet, but just the way that you effortlessly communicate, plus how it sounds, plus your intellect, and like you said, you can do that anywhere. And like
Anywhere.
I also, one of the first reasons I thought of you was because you like to help people. So I know you don't really need no drive. You just have to choose to put that on your agenda. You get what I'm
Yes,
saying?
sir.
So
Yes, sir.
I'm respectfully pressuring you to use your gift because you have a gift. You feel
Appreciate it.
me?
Yes,
I don't
sir.
want you.
I
I don't want
second
you.
that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's get to your story. So Petty, and for those who don't know, all three of us are boarding school kids, and Phil and I went to the same school in Jersey. It's called Petty. And contrary to belief, boarding school is not where bad kids go. It's actually where, in my opinion, most of the best students go. It's like college before college. Extremely rigorous. We had school 7 days a week, literally. School Monday through Saturday, and study hall from was it eight to 10. Study hall 8 to
Yeah.
10. Sunday to Sunday to Friday. You feel
Yep.
me? So the only time it wasn't school was Sunday during the daytime, right? And I got a letter from them a couple weeks ago. I'm sure you got it too. Talking about the cost of attendance now is like 70,000,
Yeah.
which which is crazy. 70,000. So that's the kind of education that we had. And it also was a place like you mentioned. It wasn't a lot of people like us. You feel me? So tell me about Petty and your memorable experiences from there. And I want to know how Phil, of all people, was on probation and got suspended.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, as stated, I started in 2003. Fall 2003 was my eighth grade year at Petty, and it was really just the what I noticed now from being there the 5 years I was there was the fact that Petty was an opportunity to go out and try new things.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, when I was in middle school, I didn't do much, mostly because I wasn't capable. Like I wanted to play football in middle school, but I couldn't because I was too big for my grade, but too young to go to the other classes. So I didn't play football. Um, I wanted to be a part of the plays and musicals, but given my church schedule with my family, I wasn't able to do it. Uh, but once I got to Petty and my family saw how much how much effort has to be put in to the academics and then the opportunities that were present with it, they kind of gave me leeway to just go out and explore. So that's what I did. I like what Malcolm stated, man, like that first day of preseason, the reason why I was struggling was because I ain't never ran like that before in my life because I never played any sports. Like there's a reason for that. But I'll never forget, man, before it's probably like day 2 or 3 of preseason, one of our coaches, Coach Malley, um, I'll never forget it, man. He looked at me. He's like, "Look, he's like, I can tell you're a good kid. You can do well. It's like, but you can't look at the big picture right now. It's like we have 2 weeks, then we have an entire season. You have, school will start up, and then all the other extracurricular activities. Like, but don't worry about that. It's like you have to take it day by day, practice by practice. There are times when you got to look at the big picture, but right now you got to look at the really small one. It's like the small one is what's going to help you get through each day. But you first have to get through each practice.
Mm-hmm.
Then the days will fall, then the weeks will fall, and everything else thereafter. And that was kind of my thought process for not just for football, but for everything else that I did at Petty and beyond. Um, so when school actually finally started, I was just one of those cats that just kind of kicked it with everybody. Uh, I've always had interest in a lot of things, but I didn't really get the opportunity to try them until I got to Petty. And when I saw them, I felt like a kid in a candy shop. So I said to myself, let me go ahead and try all these things. So my first year, I did the school part, and that was kind of, it's an expectation. But I was actually a day student, so I was technically only supposed to go be there for school, and that's it, call it a day. But my parents, they would drop me off at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. I would eat breakfast, go through the day of classes, then go to practice, then come back from practice, have dinner, and do extracurricular activities or do study hall. And I wouldn't get home to like 11 o'clock at night sometimes. So I was
Mhm.
essentially a boarding student. I just didn't sleep on campus.
Yeah.
Um, and due to that, I was able to do a lot of things I don't think many would have been able to do. Like, for example, I got into chorus at Petty because I was hanging out with a couple of the cats in the choir one night, studying for some kind of math test, and they asked me to join and be a part, and I said, sure, why not? Give it a shot, and I did, and ran with that, and that actually led to me being touring and being in an a cappella group for 4.5 years later down the road. But before that, it was just sports, music. Then I got a little bit into MCA, which is Multicultural Alliance, and that was just an opportunity for me. What I looked at as an opportunity to learn more about different types of people. I was one of those nerds growing up as a kid where I read comics, and my cousins, they would watch, anime movies and shows and stuff. And again, living in Jersey City, I was around a bunch of different types of people, and I wanted to continue that. I wanted to be around different cultures. I wanted to hear other people's stories and get an idea of what life is like as another person that is from a different place or different country or just from a different state sometimes. Um, so that's why I was in MCA, and that led to a whole bunch of other opportunities thereafter because being part of Multicultural Alliance then got me involved in the All Guys Acapella group, excuse me, called Acafellas. It got me into the musicals actually. So every fall, played football. Every winter, I did the musicals. And then every spring, that was just training to get ready for football the following year and kind of just hang out. But all those things came about because I engaged other people and had conversations with different people, and I guess was accepting of everyone and anyone, no matter what the circumstances were. And like what Malk said, I'm always a person that has a heart for individuals, and I'm always wanting to help people. So a lot of the times it's just they asked me to help them, and I kept pushing. Before we got on this call, we were talking about some of the crazy and wild things that we used to do back in high school, and one of the craziest things probably that we did what through MCA was like we hosted a fundraising party, and I forget which nonprofit it was for, but I mean that was one of the craziest parties that should ever happen on any high school campus. But it was for a good cause. I mean, we raised thousands of dollars that night, and it was for a good cause, and it really um, it really showed me how you can do both. You can have fun, but you can also still do good, and that was a pendulum that took a little while for me to kind of even out because I did get to a place where I was having a little too much fun at one point in time, and that's how I got suspended. Because what happened was, I believe it was either my sophomore or junior year. I don't really recall exactly when, but I was supposed to write a paper for history class, and I just flat out decided not to do it because we were hanging out uh, at in the dorms and just kicking it, and then I would go to to other people's houses and kick it with them on the weekends, and just I kind of just laid it off.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did was I said that I actually did the paper, and um, due to the fact that I lied, I got called into uh, to the dean's office, and we had the conversation. And I was, like you know how they say, like, if you lie and they catch you with the lie, just keep on lying. I was putting a die on that sword. I was not trying to say anything. I was like, no, I wrote that paper. I
Yeah.
put it in the box. I don't know what happened to it and all this other stuff. But when we're younger, we think that we're so much smarter than adults, and the reality is we're not.
Mm-hmm.
So um they were like, look, man, write the paper, but you're also going to be suspended. And they're like, and here's why. Like, at the end of the day, you there could have been a conversation to help you if you didn't finish the paper, as it is often the case. But since I wanted to be a smart aleck about it and be stupid about it, there had to be repercussions. So I got suspended, and I was in the um dean's office for a week straight. I went to class. When I was not in class, went to the dean's office. Luckily, it was quiet at the time because it was like right after finals, so there was nothing really going on or happening. So it's not like people were like, "Oh wait, where's Phil?" Because we were in the heat of it. But I got suspended, man, and it was an experience for me because like at that from that point forward, I'd never wanted to lie for any circumstances, because I just wanted to always put everything out on the table. For me, in any situation, I look at it like operation. It's like, I don't care what the circumstances are, just throw everything out on the table and we'll work through it. And that suspension showed me that because, man, did I get chewed out by my parents and everything else in between, especially because, like Malcolm said, man, it's like $70,000 like per student. Like it ain't just like, oh, I missed a paper. That's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of money fitting to
Money.
go around the corner and in the
Yeah.
trash can if you don't do it right. So
Yeah.
yeah, man, it was an interesting time, but it definitely taught me the lesson for sure. And I'll never forget it. And a lot of things that I experienced at Petty, I will never forget. And it's one of those things that I hope more people recognize, especially when you're younger, not just in high school, college as well, man. It's a place where you're meant to go and explore and try different things and give yourself an opportunity to actually decide that you like something as opposed to just saying you like it because your friends say it or because it's the new hip thing. Um, and that's the beauty of petty, and that's the beauty of what I learned during that time.
Yeah. Most definitely. And one thing about Petty that I noticed as an educator is how far ahead we were. Like, for example, now still kids that I work with, they can turn in anybody paper, and
Mhm.
that's their paper. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember it was my senior year. I want to say Spanish, some final where we had to write a lot. So they let us take the finals on laptops. But the teacher was up front, and he, in this case, could see each of our screens. Like, I wish that when I gave my students tests and quizzes on the computer, I wish I could see their screens because the
Mhm.
work you can
Unreal.
get, you can give to a student, particularly a black student in an urban school, is a computer or a phone. Because they're going to smack to YouTube, they're going to smack to the music, and they're going to do everything but the work. And if they do the work, they're just going to click, 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 and get through. You know, um, and I think you took advantage of a lot of things that I wish I would have took advantage of Petty. Not necessarily the extracurricular activities, but like that's a powerful network, bro.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
powerful network, and nobody really taught us about network. You feel me? It was like it was very, very structured, but just very, very academic,
Yeah.
not very, very like people centered. Like family style was an attempt, you know, and they had it was a lot of options, most definitely. But if you weren't coming from a place to where you were kind of groomed for it and looking for it like you were, you missed out on a lot. You missed out
Yeah,
on a lot.
man. And I think that's still a problem at Petty now. I think there needs to be more, and not just at Petty. It happens at all schools. There needs to be a very intentional conversation about getting to know other people and different types of people, because I think that would help us in our world today. I mean, especially with what's going on right now with the conversation about social injustice and racism and everything else in between. So many of my friends are coming to me and they're like, bro, like I never knew, like, like I said, like, like people hear about it, but they don't really know, especially if they
Mm-hmm.
don't know that it's happening to you. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, yeah, man, like this, like, it happens all the time. This is one of the circumstances. This is one of the things. But they wouldn't know that because we never had the conversation, despite the
Yeah.
fact that we were right to, like, some of them jokers, like I saw them every hocking day, but we just never had that conversation. So I
Mm-hmm.
think there needs to be more, and not just for the educators, but also at home, for us to have the conversation with, with our kids, to be like, look, when you meet someone, get to know them. I
Yeah.
think Michelle Obama, I had just watched her Netflix thing, and Become, and she was saying, like, too often we ask people about, like, their accolades. Like, we ask them, like, what do you do for a living, and how old are you, and where you're from. And she's like, what we need to do more is actually ask people to tell their story. So
Yeah.
ask them, like, what's your favorite memory of your grandfather?
Mm-hmm.
Or what was one of the conversations you had at your dinner table this week?
Mm-hmm.
Like, those are the things that we need to do more. And that's why I'm loving this conversation that we're having right now, because these are the kind of things that needs to happen more. So then we can really get to understand one another, and understand, and in that, understand how our lives can look
Mm-hmm.
due to that.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. I just actually learned this week about an activity we're going to implement with kids that we work with that exact thing. So through physical fitness, building social skills. So
Mm-hmm.
like you get them to do a dance hypothetically, teach them a dance, and while they're dancing, they have a script of like not like icebreaker kind of questions, right? And because everybody isn't comfortable just talking, the dancing makes everybody feel awkward. You feel me? It's like when you know somebody, you can know them your whole life. You go to school with them, but then you see them at the pool party. It's like, yo, this is a real person. It's like out of the
Yeah,
element. And the person
yeah,
that's cool always may not be cool by the water. You
Mm-hmm.
feel me? So it takes kind of takes that ice off, right? And then you evaluate them after XYZ times to see who can remember the most. And you kind of like cycle through. You feel me? And
yeah.
it kind of it builds social skills, and then also something people don't know is like you stretch your brain while you're moving, while you're being active. So you're getting smarter and learning while you're making your body better at the same time. So it could be things like that Petty could do, and you wouldn't even notice that you're doing it. You
Right.
know, but
That's dope, man.
that's also something that's got to start from the top down.
Stop.
Yeah.
Like I think Petty's gonna leave it up to the students, but the students don't know nothing yet. They don't know nothing yet, and the normally involved alumni, from my understanding, at least I haven't heard enough noise. I haven't actively sought it, but for those kind of things to be a priority, because
Yeah.
that's a gold mine of knowledge, wealth, and everything else. And many other schools, like even like a regular public school, everybody is like clicked up, as are the teachers, administrators. Everybody got their own little pocket, and then not realizing like, yo, especially now, I'm seeing people turn into stuff, and it's like, dang,
Mhm.
I ain't even talked to him. Not that I was trying to get something out of him, but like, what
No.
if
It's
a piece
just
of
yeah.
information that he could have gave me, or just some kind of experience? Go ahead,
Right.
KG.
And I think that's for sure. That's the beauty of really being comfortable with communicating. Because once you're comfortable with communicating, oftentimes you're not afraid to go initiate. And obviously, it takes others sometimes to build that skill because it's a little nerve wracking, it's a little scary, it's a little uncomfortable. But it's definitely a skill that we need to be able to use because then it'll give people lots more perspective versus just judging something because it's different or because it's a lot of different things that I bet if you try, people will look at you like you're crazy. Like, what? We don't do that. Like, well, maybe you don't do that, but that's something I'm interested in. So a lot of the times, people are, in my opinion, I think people are so scared to try things because the fear of what other people will believe about them. But once we, if we break it down and try to just teach people to learn each other and things like that, like you said, Phil, it'll be obviously, it's going to take time, but it'll be a little easier for people to understand the reasonings behind actions because now they have an experience or, just a different perspective than they had before.
Mhm.
1
Definitely.
second, so I got to get my charge on my computer flying down.
All right, so after Petty, you went to Lee University, where you did music business and business administration, all of your extracurriculars. So, two specific questions. Where is Lee University, and how did you end up traveling 40 weeks a year?
So Lee University is in a small town called Cleveland, Tennessee. It is it's about an hour and 10 minutes south of Knoxville, which is where the University of Tennessee is.
Okay.
Mhm.
Excuse me, and it's a Christian liberal arts school. Um, I heard about it probably within like the last month before the deadline was. But when I decided to visit campus and I was walking on campus, man, I knew I was supposed to be there, and it pissed me off. So let me tell you something. If there's one thing that a pastor's kid does not want to do, it is to go to a Christian college.
Of course, I'm sure.
but I knew that I was supposed to be there, and so that summer I went there for their honors program and hung out. I did their music camp and hung out, and then I actually got there due to me hanging out there like for almost a month in the summer. I was invited to be in student leadership. So the week before classes started, I got myself shipped down to Tennessee, and I was sitting in a room with about 50 or so students and professors and such, and was doing student leadership and getting to know different people and hanging out and enjoying the time. And those friends I was with, we went to their dorm room, and I was like, we were just kicking it in the room, talking, and we got a knock on the door. And me being me, I decided to open up someone else's dorm room door. I just opened the door, and I was like, "Hello," and the guy just looks at me. He goes, "You must be Big Phil." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, dude! I ain't even been here for a week yet. Why do people know who I am? There are thousands of people on this campus. Who are you, and why do you know me?" And he's like, he told me the whole rap. He explained that he was a guy that was a part of an acapella group on campus, and he heard about me and wanted me to audition. So I said, okay, sure, I'll do that. That was on a Sunday night. That Tuesday, excuse me, I went to audition, not knowing what I was doing, had no clue as to what was happening. I just went up there, said hi to everybody, did the thing, and sang Amazing Grace. And doing that, I can kind of like see everyone's faces kind of like change. And I'm thinking to myself, if you're auditioning for something and the whole squad's there, you're thinking I'm messing up because they all looking at me like. So I was like, oh Lord, man, I blew it. I blew it. I blew it. But I kept singing, finished the song.
Mm-hmm.
And the director, he was like, hey, so I have a question for you. I was like, yes, sir. He said, you're a music major, right? So yeah, I'm a music major. He said, are you going to be auditioning for like any of the other groups or anything? And I said, yeah, I was going to because I was actually going there to be a percussion major, not not voice at all, percussion. He's like, yeah, I can't have you do that. You're not going to audition for anything else. If you're okay with it, I want you to be a part of this group. And I said, oh, okay, sure, why not? He's like, when can you hang out with us? And come to practice. I said, when do you need me? He's like, come here tomorrow, 3 o'clock. So that started the journey, man. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Little did I know that this group that's known as called the Voices of Lee is a very profound group, and like to the point where a lot of people like talk about their choirs and like, oh yeah, like I was in a college choir,
Yeah.
but this was way different from that because we traveled basically every weekend. I mean, we practiced every single day for about 2 hours. Um, and then on the weekends, we would sing at churches, we would sing in arenas. I mean, like we different companies and businesses. I mean, we did stuff all over the place, and it was um, more than anything I could have ever imagined. Like that next day when I got there, I got a binder about this big
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
with about 30 to 40 a cappella songs
Okay.
that had 8 parts to them, and was told, "Hey, you got to learn all this in 2 weeks. Have fun." And I'm thinking to myself, like, I can barely read notes. How in the
Mm-hmm.
world am I supposed to learn all this music in 2 weeks? But I mean, there's certain things in life I believe. Um, well, actually, not certain things in life. I think this is all for all of life. I really do believe that whenever something comes in your life that is an obstacle, it's never meant for you. It's never meant to be put there for you to fail. I think we always have the tools and resources and the effort that is capable of us overcoming it, but we doubt ourselves. But one of the things that it says in the Bible is like he knows how much you can bear. And the world, God, whatever you believe in, like it knows what you can and cannot do.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that these 30, 40 songs I got to memorize in 2 weeks, I might think I can't do it, but someone else does. Because if they didn't, then they wouldn't give it to me. So let's go ahead and make this happen. And that's what I did, man. And when I made it happen, I mean, like that group, I was right there at the perfect time because they didn't have, I sang bass there. The reason why it all happened and fell into place because they lost all of their bass singers. One bass singer graduated, and then the other two, one of them quit before the summer ended, and then one of them just didn't even show up. Like he did just decide not to go back to school. So that's why that guy was going around campus looking for somebody to audition because they needed a bass singer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and from me singing in that group, like we were on the Sing Off, which was a competition show on NBC. That was in 2009, I believe.
Mm.
Um, we've done cool things. Like I've sang with like CC Winans and Israel Houghton, and we've opened for cats like Florida Georgia Line and Rascal Flats. We've sang for the Mitsubishi Company. Um, sang for actually we went to Obama's second inauguration and sang for that. Just like things that go far and beyond what most people are even capable of seeing and experiencing, let alone being a part of. And I was able to do that because of this group. And it was that's why I say like it goes far and beyond from just being a choir because we were doing things really professionally to the point where we were we and a lot of my friends today are in Nashville doing studio work. Like they sing backup for all these great artists and gospel singers, and they've sang on the Oscars and for the Country Music Awards and beyond. And that's because of the excellence that we were raised in with this
Mhm.
group. And that's kind of the level of excellence that helped propel me to where I'm at now in life. Now, don't get me wrong. There was a little bit of foolishness in there, because I definitely got too big for my britches at one point in time. Because by when I got to Lee, I was getting. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. I don't care though. If I get in trouble, I guess they can call me. But I was getting tuition and a half back
Okay.
my first full year. And the reason why is because I had gotten a scholarship that paid for my entire year at the school due to my ACT scores. But then I also had gotten a scholarship through a program in Jersey that was giving me money. And then being part of Voices of Lead, you get half tuition as well. So I was literally getting paid to go to school
Mm.
Okay.
my entire first year. So with that money and the entrepreneurial mindset that I have, as well as me not wanting to live in a dorm another year after going to Petty,
Mhm.
I talked to my parents. I was like, "Look, I don't like it's Southeast Tennessee. Real estate's cheap. I got this much money. Can y'all like match this or whatever? We can put a down payment on the house." And that's what we did. We put a down payment on the house on a house. We flipped it, went from 3 bedrooms to 6 bedrooms and 3.5 bath.
Mm.
And I got like four cats that lived on campus to live in the house with me. So now I'm getting paid for people to live in my house.
Mhm.
Did that well for about a year and a half until I decided to have a party.
Mm.
Oh man.
Y'all heard the conversation earlier about the party we threw at Petty, right? Apparently, I
Yeah.
have a habit of throwing parties. So we were having a party at my house for a friend, and it just got to like a lot of people started showing up, like well over 100 people. And I'm like, okay, but we got it. Like we know these people, we got it. We're cool. But then like these jokers from town that I knew nothing about, didn't know them from Adam, were trying to come in the house. So I was like, I'm sorry, like there's way too many people here already. We're at capacity. Like you guys got to go. But instead of leaving, they decided to walk around my house and come in from the back. So at that point, I just shut it down. I was using a few choice words with 4 letters in them, and I was like, "Get up out my house now!"
Mhm.
And I thought that was the right thing to do. Little did I know that it was not the right thing to do, because once you decide to kick a whole bunch of people out, they're kind of just sitting in the middle of the Hawkins Street, not knowing what to do and nowhere to go.
Mhm.
So now you got all these cats outside of my development. I lived in a cul-de-sac. A fight broke loose. Led like people were putting dents in cars and in mailboxes and all this other stuff in between. And me being me, because I'm a wild and crazy kid, I was ready to put in the work. I was like, yo, if they trying to mess up some stuff, I'm gonna go out there and mess them up too. But one of my friends was like, no, don't do that. We already called the cops. You live here. You just got to sit here, hang out until they come. The cops came, of course. Nothing crazy. Like I mean, like I could have went to jail easily for the circumstances, but the cop empathized. He was like, you did do the right thing by getting everyone out. I just got a citation for for the noise and for the damage done. Apologize to my neighbors and everything else in between. But and it was like gonna be kept quiet. I talked with my director. He's like, dude, like we're gonna figure everything out, get everything taken care of, call it a day. Which is sidebar. It's not about what you know. It is definitely about who you know, because
Mm.
people can give you the hookup. But
Mhm.
speaking of who you know, this guy decided to write all this in the paper.
Mm.
So That Monday morning, I'm in the dean's office again, and they just put the paper down on the table. They're like, "What's this?" It's like, "Oh, yeah, I had a party, got kind of crazy," and they're like, "So we have to do something about this. You're going to a Christian school, like none of this stuff's supposed to happen." And they asked me what I wanted to do, and I was really close to just being like, "Well, forget y'all, forget all this. Like I'm out." But I was so if it wasn't for voices, I would never have stayed. But I was so invested in doing that and helping them and seeing what I was doing with them that I decided to stay, and that led to me being shipped back on the campus. I had to live on campus for the rest of that following semester as punishment, as well as be put on academic probation. And yeah, I was just in a space where I kind of had to keep my nose clean for about 3 4 months until the dust settled. But even then, like I said with my grandfather, like he that memory of him saying like you can make it could either be a wonderful time or it be a terrible time. It's up to you. I made it a wonderful time, man. Like living in the dorms. At that point, I was a junior, so I was hanging out. It was a freshman dorm, so I was hanging out with these young up and coming cats, and I got the opportunity to meet the new ones that were coming into the school, and um, was kind of like a prefect of sorts due to that, and hung out with them, and um, got to meet other amazing people that I probably would have never met if otherwise. And yeah, just lived the life as best as I could until I was able to finally go back home to my house and sleep in my own bed.
Yeah, man. Well, that's because you was in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Some parties that we had in DC during college, I would have been on death row in Tennessee. In Tennessee.
They would
They
have
would
got
have
you up out of there.
me. They would have got me, man. And I would have been one of them dudes you hated that was outside fighting and
Oh
acting
yeah,
crazy.
that was Clubber Lang, Malcolm
Yeah,
Evans himself, Clubber Lang.
I was, I was in the mix, boy. In the mix, man. But once again, like I think something that you continue to highlight is that it seems like you so effortlessly flow through your traumatic moments because you got reasons that aren't about yourself. You feel me? You can say, man, I ain't really want to do it, but I knew I had to help them. Or somebody asked me, I just do it. Or I had 2 weeks to figure it out. I wasn't ready, but I knew that they were depending on me because so and so left, he ain't come back. They ain't had nobody else. You feel me? So I think that's a good lesson for those who are watching and those who do see this that it's easier to get through your hardest moments when they're not about you because when they're about you, you're too close to the picture. You're not
Yeah,
you can't see take a step back and see that other people are counting on you, and it don't really matter what you're going through because it's you need to make a difference for them. You know, so I think that's pretty dope how you just effortlessly flow through it because you make it about everybody else. But clearly, you can sing and you can play the drums and those things, but you can do other things too. And these things I didn't know about. So you're a photographer. I didn't know that. Right?
yeah, man.
Graphic design and data analytics. So do you do pictures, videos, both? What's your photography like?
Yeah, I so my photography life started in college. And again, it was a question. Uh, I did a lot of work with nonprofit organizations and religious organizations when I was in Tennessee,
Mm-hmm.
and I was at an event helping a buddy of mine, and they had a camera, but no one was there to take pictures with the camera. I was like, oh, I'll do it. Why not? And I again, like the level of excellence is always like to understand that there should always be a level of excellence is something that is important. And for me, although I've never taken a picture a day of my life like that, I've seen plenty of pictures. So although I was very in the not know, I wanted it to still be top quality, professional as best as I can. So I took those pictures as best as I could, and they liked them, and they're like, "Man, like you should take pictures more often." And I said, "Yeah, I guess like it's something that I can enjoy." It was artsy enough for me to appreciate it. So the following the following semester in the spring, I took a photo video class. It was one of my requirements. I had to take one of those electives anyway, so I just decided to do photo video, and that's where I learned about ISO and shutter speed and different lens sizes and all this other fun stuff, and started taking pictures for friends that like had EPs coming out, but they didn't have a photographer, or at events that needed a photographer. Started doing videos with people um, that wanted those to be done as well, and kind of just did a bit of those things. And in doing those things, I kind of just naturally transitioned into graphic design, because what happens a lot of times when you're taking photos and you're shooting videos, you have to do a lot of editing. And
Mm-hmm.
so I got into Photoshop, and I got into the video editing software for called Premiere Pro. But then I started dabbling in things like Illustrator and Dreamweaver and things like that, and realized I was like, oh, like I'm not that bad at this stuff. This is fun. And of course, like being in the 21st century, all you gotta do is go on YouTube and figure it out and just kind of play with it. And but again, like you have to have that level of, like, you have to desire greatness in order for it to be great. And but you also have to have the humility enough to know that you don't know nothing. So you'll actually go and learn, because like I knew I wanted it to be good, so I went out and learned. And then like I would go out of pocket and like pay 30-40 bucks for a training program or wherever it is. And then as I got better, I would spend a little bit more money and keep going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, that's how I got into it. And now it's more of a hobby than anything else. But it definitely did help during COVID, for sure, because with people not being able to go out, I had to, I was helping friends with commercials for like the restaurants and businesses. Um, the church, we were recording services because we couldn't do it live, so I had to learn how to do that. I was a lot of people, a lot of students, due to the fact that they weren't sure about graduation. The parents wanted to do a bit more, so they wanted to do graduation photos. So I was doing that as well, but it was just like a pro bono kind of thing. I was just like, hey, like, just if you pay for my gas and you give me something to eat, I'm good to go. Anything else will just be a blessing, because it's I, one of the things that I want to achieve in life is I want to be in a place where I can help as many people as I can. Which,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of the reasons why we can't do that well is because we need money, we need finances. So but I have a job, so like it's, of course, it's good to have a little extra money on the side and everything else in between, but you also don't have to rip anyone off or demand more than what is necessary,
Mm-hmm.
when you have those multiple streams of income anyway. So yeah, man, like it's fun. It's something that just kind of happened and took place, and decided to run with.
Yeah, you made me think of something that Bob Proctor always says: anything good is worth doing wrong. Anything good is worth doing bad until you do it right. You
Hmm.
feel me? And so many people get stuck like I'm not good at it. Like, yeah, you just started doing this and you comparing yourself
Exactly.
to people who've been doing this for a lifetime. You feel me? So that's something I always hear him say. Anything good is worth doing wrong until you get it right, or worth doing bad until you get it right. But you
Yeah,
gotta
and
first
I
go.
definitely piggyback on that as well, Malcolm. Especially with our generations and generations below, underneath us, we kind of were brought up with technology, so a lot of things have been instant in our hands. So, during our journey of doing what we do with Game Seven, and then being in the classroom, you often see students and young people get so angry when the first time they try to do something, they're just not on the level where they think it's like a false reality. It's just like just because you want to be good at something, it's just like me. If I go pick up a basketball and I shoot a bunch of shots for the first time in my life, and I'm expected to go 10 for 10 because I've been watching Steph Curry, like that reality, that's not a real reality. A lot of people skip the fact that it takes work and and it's a process. So it's dope for you to see um, that it takes work. You're not going to be all of a sudden this famous photographer the first time you picked up your camera and you realize that you had to invest into the idea as well, right? Just because you learn this, I mean, just because you want to do something, you're probably going to have to put in a couple of dollars and some time to really get good if you really wanted to be in it. And if you really wanted that bad enough, you're going to sacrifice for it as well. So it, it's pretty cool to see that you had multiple things that you always dabbled in. It's cool to see that you're just so accepting of new moments and new journeys. So that's pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, we all have 24 hours in a day, right? And I could easily, watch a bunch of shows or play video games, and I'm not knocking any of those things. That's what anyone does. I mean, not like we all do at least a little bit of that here and there.
Mm.
But I always looked at it as like if I can get a hobby, why not let it be one that could also be lucrative, it's
Mhm.
not that if I'm going to be burning these hours anyway, sitting at home for 2 3 hours, and it's like, well, I've read my book, what else am I going to do today? It's like, let me go watch this tutorial on how to take pictures underwater or whatever else it may be. And like what you were saying, Kay, like, let me go ahead and look at how does Steph Curry shoot the ball. Let me
Mhm.
watch it frame by frame to see his actual form, and then go shoot the hoops for an hour. It's like, if that's something that you want to do it. I think too often we just kind of lay back at, like what you were saying, man, and just say, well, I can't figure it out overnight, so what's the point? But the time's going to be spent anyway. Might as well do it, in a way that is positive and can impact your life in a positive way, as opposed to kind of just being like everyone else with entertainment.
Mm-hmm. Uh, Phil, you mentioned reading again, so you read a lot. And this dude is also another speaker that I listen to, who's a pastor, John Maxwell, and he always talks about the rule of five. You familiar with that?
Yeah,
Yeah, so like you fit that define. And what the rule of five is, for those who don't know, is he said just imagine that outside of your house there's a tree, a little tree, or the tree of life, the biggest tree in the world. And every day, no matter what, you go out there with your axe and you hit it 5 times, just 5 times. Eventually, what's going to happen to that tree? Whether it's big or small, is going to
fall.
it's
Oh,
going to fall. But you got to do it every day. He calls it the rule of five. Um, and something else, and I don't feel like a hypocrite no more, but I always ask people, do they read? Right? And more or less, the answer is usually no, or we get the halfway try to defend. Oh, I read articles, or I read every day, like on the computer. Like, yeah, like that is the physical act of reading. But do you take time to dive into one piece of literature that's going to give you details, like intentional time? Like, this is my reading time. And as an educator and a communicator and a speaker, that's something that's completely changed my life because it makes you more intelligent. You get to talk about one thing in various different ways. You feel me? Like we could talk about football, but a lot of people can only tell me about how they see it on TV. It's like very, very different when you're talking to an athlete who actually played. Like I
Yeah,
said, they're watching the game completely differently because they're intelligent. And I challenge people all the time, like, yo, you gotta read, and that's something I just started doing like a year ago, right? But I don't miss. I do it every day, yo, every day. And he's actually so far my favorite author because it's like so effortless. He makes it seem so. He'll take something so complex and just make it so simple in a
Yeah.
way where everybody can understand it. I know he's been doing it for 50 years, but I love how he communicates. And then like his voice, he's got like that. It's a very very captivating voice and cadence. And then how he sits down, it's like Mr. Rogers. He reminds me of
Mr. Rogers have anybody cooling,
yeah,
man.
Come
Mr.
on
Rogers.
now.
Mr. Rogers with the bars. But we got a question for you before we go. So my mother said, "What's up, Phil? Has there ever been a time when you said no to an opportunity?"
Yes. So to backtrack before I give that answer to when I've done that, I've always been in a space where I will always say yes unless there's a reason for me to say no.
Okay.
Um, and in those times when I've said no, and I've said no plenty of times, it really was just dependent on what was priority. Um, Kind of like what Malcolm was saying earlier, like you need to have a focus, and in that with that focus, you need to be able to know that is your priority and keep moving with it. So one of the things that I've been saying no to a lot to over the years has has been the what do you call it? Like the MLL companies, MLM companies, like multi-level marketing, network marketing. Now, don't get me wrong, I was in a few of them as well, but a lot of them I have to say no to because it's it is a job in and of itself that you have to invest your time and energy in. And I'm all for that. But for me personally, if I'm going to invest my time and energy in someone else's dream, because although it is there to help you achieve yours, you still are working on someone else's. I personally prefer to do that at a personal level.
Mm-hmm.
Like Malcolm K right now, like if they ask me to like help not and I'm not trying to like
Well,
put my name on the docket right now. I'm not
Hey, I'm already
promo.
in
I put you
Hey,
on the
with the
spot.
quick promo, brother. With the quick promo.
Let me get my resume right here. No. But seriously, like, with game 7 asking me to help them is something I would say yes to because I know like these are the cats that are doing it straight up and down. These are the ones that I'm helping, and they're helping me at the same time, and we're working together to achieve goals and dreams. But that other stuff that looks too corporate for me to actually be interested in it because
right.
I can't talk to the CEO of Advocare or the COO of Stream. Like I mean, as much as you can, um, it's just not the same. So those are the things that I've said no to. But again, the reason why is because I have that I understand who I am as a person and what I focus on. So I'm capable of saying no to them because I have a reason to say no to them, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
so
with you.
you pretty much agree to things that fit the model of what type of person you want to be, and if it
Mhm.
can't add value, you won't do it. That's pretty straightforward in a sense. And for people, a lot of people who struggle saying no, that's something that you should think about. Um, if it doesn't add value to you or doesn't bring joy to you, don't say yes just because you think that's what someone wants you to do. But if it brings value to you, you can help other people reach goals that they want to reach, and it is something that you're honestly interested in. Go for it. You
Right.
never you never know what an opportunity can bring you.
And there's
Um,
nothing selfish about that, man. So many people want to make you feel negative, feel negatively about those circumstances, but the reality is we all have our purpose in life. We all have our own lanes, and you wanting to add value to someone else and simultaneously to yourself is not just about you, like what Malcolm was talking about as well. It's about all the other people that are within that space too.
Yeah.
because you can't, if you're helping someone on the left side, you're not capable of doing that the same as the right side as well. Not to mention what you just said, Kay, about the fact that if it's not something that you can really put your heart into it, what's the point of doing it anyway? Like
Hmm.
you're not giving someone, you're not giving them 100%. So I personally don't see the point of doing so unless you can, because we all should always do our best to give our best.
But I would also like to highlight the power of saying yes.
Hmm.
So within your niche, like clearly a lot of things that came to you with opportunities, especially with your singing and music career, you was like, yes. Like didn't even know what was gonna be. Like, I'm gonna figure it out. And that's also something I can always count on Kendall for. Like, yo, we gonna do this. All right, I'm with you. And that's like me. Somebody can't, do y'all do this? Yes. Do y'all do this? Yes. As long as it's aligned, even if we don't do it yet.
Yeah,
Because clearly we all got a vision and it's going to take us getting through a lot of things that we ain't been through yet. And I see some people that I know that are working on their various businesses or lives or whatever, and things that are in alignment with their goals, they're saying no to. You feel me? Either subconsciously or consciously. Like you said, you don't play no video games now, and everything you do is aligned with what you're trying to do. I was the ultimate video game dude, yo. I ain't touched a video game in like a year and a half, maybe. Sports, like I still watch sometimes. Well, now we in COVID, but like I turn that all the way down. Like I did my football on Sundays, but I make sure I wake up early, do everything I gotta do. I maybe catch some of the game, but everything that I do is in alignment of my goal. And then as you continue to say yes, if you're good, you will, at whatever you're doing, you will continue to get opportunities. Then eventually it'll get to a point to where you don't have no time to do nothing else. Like now is like the worst time in a very, very long time. But I ain't never had no time like this in my life. Like I truly, truly believe things are about to take off. And thank God I'm a teacher with summer because I literally don't have no time to do nothing else. Because I said yes, yes, yes. And then we just started creating things. Like for example, me,
Snowball.
me and KG been working on, well, all of us, but spearheaded by me and KG, we're working on a program we call Goal Line, to where we're going to focus on working with athletes. That was, we've been talking about it, and he did his part, made his lessons and stuff, but I haven't had a chance to get there. But then I got there last week, and then we got a call this week
Literally, couple
saying
days later.
that was the program that we've been working on, right? But if I was cooling because we didn't have a request yet for an athletic program playing the games and stuff, I wouldn't have been prepared. I
hmm
still would have said yes, but then we would have had to scramble to come up with a whole program in a matter. That was like Friday, and we got our first meeting tomorrow night. You feel me? So
that's
less
dope.
than to make months and months of stuff. You feel me? So it is powerful, like y'all both said, to say no to things that are not aligned. But if it is, you got to say yes. And
Well
it's
put.
easier. You can't say yes until you say yes to yourself first.
Hmm.
You feel me? Like Phil, it's clear that you got a vision. I don't know what that vision is, but it's clearly driven by helping others. You feel me? Either through ministry, music, speaking, some kind of things involved in those. And because you have that vision, that that influences your daily decisions. You feel
Yes,
me?
sir.
So you a pop. It's called purpose over pleasure. You feel me? Purpose over pleasure. But a lot of people are perpetual pleasure chasers. Like that? I stole that from somebody.
Yeah, man, I like that. I'm gonna use that one for sure.
You like
Yeah,
that?
yes,
Purpose
sir.
over
Hey, what's
pleasure.
your name? My name's Pop. Thank you very much.
Purpose over pleasure. And don't be a perpetual pleasure chaser. But Phil, you better get this right. Where's your favorite place to shop?
Favorite place to shop? Ooh, T Public.
Whoa! Eh.
Tell
You got
tell him
your
the
first
tell him
strike.
the right answer. Tell him the right answer. Come on, bro.
Hit him
You
with
got
that Family Feud X.
Right.
you got to be hit, bro. And speaking of cameras and pictures and all that, you seen our commercial yet, Phil?
No, no.
Good. Now you about to see it. Oh, okay. Here we go. So now you know the right answer next time, Phil.
Oh,
Yes,
I
sir.
got it.
Hey,
Man,
don't,
I'm
don't.
already, I'm already on the website right now. I'm trying to figure out what I'm fitting to get.
Yes, sir. Hey, don't be shy.
Hey, and then we.
We got backpacks, we got fanny packs.
Oh, I'm getting some for sure. For sure.
But before and if you do buy, don't get it yet. Let me know so I can send you a discount code.
All right. Appreciate it, brother. Will do.
I'm I'm paying you in advance because one of these in a little bit we're gonna need some vocals in the background.
Yeah. Hey, I know y'all heard. I know y'all heard the Trey songs right there. Yeah.
Oh
Oh my
man,
goodness. This is a good thing we're doing this virtually because if we were all together, it would be a
you gonna
hot.
make it.
Oh,
You gonna make it. But thank you, Phil, man. That was dope. And then once again, I would like to reiterate. I know you already know and people tell you, but you do have a gift, and I'm gonna challenge you. You know, as you continue to go through your path, to make sure you use it because you help people just by being yourself. You know, but like you said, you do got to be intentional about that. So don't ever stop doing that because you got a powerful story and you have a very powerful means of communicating that to people, and you never know what one experience that you provide for somebody else, you never know what that can do for them. You feel me? Just how you said the dude when you first started speaking through the organization was like, "Yo, Phil, you got a gift." That was one experience, right? And we're big on telling people about the thought process, which
Mhm.
is thoughts, choice, behaviors, experiences, and emotions, right? So you had step four, you had an experience first, right? The dude was like, "Yo, Phil, I need you here. You got a gift," and that made you some kind of emotion. You started thinking, right? After your emotions, so you started thinking, made different choices and different behaviors. You feel me? And that became your means of income. And now in your life, you literally rely on your voice and your communication to make your living and to fulfill your mission of helping others. So by speaking, never forget that you can give somebody an experience that can change their mind and then that can change their life.
Yes,
Feel me?
sir. Yes,
So
sir.
I appreciate you. Thanks for coming on. And we definitely gonna have you again. We're gonna talk offline about some things we can do to help each other.
Yeah, brother, definitely, man. I'm here for y'all through and through. Like seriously, like y'all are doing an amazing job with Game Seven, like checking it out. Even just I know what you said about me just being myself, helping others. But Malk, man, uh, not to exclude you, KG, but we lost our Facebook connection. We're gonna have to fix that. But Malk, man, just even seeing the conversations that you put out there on social media, uh, it clearly shows where you are and what you want. And in that, I can tell that KG and everyone else in the team are one of those same things because one of my favorite Southern sayings is "as goes the pulpit, so goes the pew," which essentially means like as the leaders, y'all are the leaders of Game Seven. If y'all will, the people around you will reflect
Mm-hmm.
that leadership, and it's very clear that y'all are currently great leaders, but it's because y'all are still striving to be great leaders at the same time. And I love y'all. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I got y'all's back for real through and through. I'm always here for y'all. Give me a holler whenever. And Game Seven, keep it real.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
You
sir.
know what Game Seven mean, Phil?
Yes, but I've not heard you tell me. So I'm
The spinoff.
Played it well. Tell him what it mean, KG.
Goals, game 7 means goals and ambition mean everything. 7 days, 7 pillars, 7 days a week. And then,
Yes, sir.
game 7 from coming from a sports background, you got to get it.
Yes, sir.
Live every day like it should last, man.
And
Yes,
then go
sir.
home. Peace out,
Love
y'all.
it.
Appreciate you, Phil.
Appreciate y'all.